I many stories today. The first story is all about intuition. Okay, and I'm not a golden boy on this. Before we get into the all that malarkey, first come first serve on the questions and stuff. I am not a golden boy on this. I get this screwed up. I think everybody has moments where they screw this up and stuff. But I have been there's been a theme in the last, and obviously they're private readings, so I'm not going to go delving in. But there's been a theme in the last couple, I would say the last 5 or 6 private readings that we've been doing over at greatisgoodtarot.com, which is right there, where people are not in tune with their intuition. And it's coming up in the cards quite clearly that they're not listening to their intuition. They're not tuned into their intuition. I'm not saying that you're supposed to be tuned like a piano or anything, but I mean, like, you're either ignoring it or, that kind of shindig. So I wanted to tell you a story which happened today. I was inspired. I'm following my intuition right now. I was inspired to tell you about what happened today. So this morning, around about, last night at stupid o'clock, around about like 8-9 o'clock p.m., my younger brother, there's only him and me, my younger brother and I were in back and forth text messages. He needed new van for work, and he'd found one on Facebook, I believe, and he was like, oh, I've got this, it's in Kent, which if you're not in the United Kingdom, which is about like I'd say 150 mile there and back, each way sort of thing. 2 hours each way, right? And we left at 8:30 this morning. And after a bit of shindig, because it was a bit early, both of us hadn't quite woken up. And I didn't really sleep that well either last night. So it was one of the shindigs that we did leave at 8:30, but we kind of didn't leave town where we live, and after we'd done chores, like, I don't know, getting petrol/gas into our vehicles and that sort of thing. We didn't get going until like more quarter past 9. But we got there, we got moving, we got going, we had a nice little chin wag on the way down. And something popped into my head. And this is where intuition kicked in. About halfway down, something popped into my head. And I'm like, we're going to Kent, right? And he's like, yeah, because he was driving at the time. We were taking it in turns, breaking it up sort of thing. And he was driving there. And he was like, yeah, we're going to Kent. And I'm like, well, that's good because, firstly, I was driving the right direction because I was driving first. Thumbs up me. But also, phew, that was a good idea. And secondly, more importantly, it was this brainwave. Now, I am a big fan of Red Dwarf. Now, Red Dwarf, if you don't know, is a British kind of sitcom in space. If you're a big fan of Guardians of the Galaxy, Firefly, Serenity, that kind of thing, like a comedy in space, all their DNA harks back to the origins that is Red Dwarf. It's fantastic. It is ongoing. It is beautiful. It is just so funny. It's funny as anything. But I'm a big fan. I've got them all on DVD. On DVD, not Blu-ray, but I've got the box sets on DVD. So there is an episode called Gunman of the Apocalypse. I can't remember which season it is. I'm not that much of a geek, but I'm like where they do a Western. They go in like if you're into Star Trek, they go into like a holodeck thing, and they go into a game which is based on a Western. Now, this place was filmed entirely in the United Kingdom. There is one place. I'm just trying to find a shot of it. Here we go. Here's a shot of on which channel am I on? That one. Here's a shot of them, the boys from the Dwarf in this Western, okay? And it's a big shindig, a big story on the bonus DVD malarkey, where they were like, well, we almost we weren't able not to do this kind of episode because the people up high in the BBC thought we couldn't do it, couldn't find a Western town to film at. And so they almost, didn't happen. But they found this place, an original kind of built town western town in Kent. It's the only town in the United Kingdom that is a western that just the lovers of the genre have built. So you can see where this is going. Halfway down the thing, I'm suddenly going, oh, we're going to Kent. I wonder if I can Google on the way down where this bloody western town is and whether or not we'll be able to go there. Follow my intuition, right? My brother and I do like a bit of adventures. You know, we used to be scouts and all that kind of stuff. So it's like, you know, yeah, all right, mate. He's going, you know, because he's geezer. Yeah, all right, mate. Yeah, whoa, whoa. That kind of, it doesn't sound like that at all. But yeah, whoa, 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 whoa. That, you know, the arms flapping everywhere. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Yeah, innit, bruv. So this is the weirdest story ever. So he's like, okay, let's find out. If you can find it on Google. If you can find it on Google, mate, and it's nearby, then sure, why not? Let's go for it. He doesn't sound like a Cockney at all. But for this story, why not? So he's like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, in it, bruv. As long as we're going to pick up his van, his new van for work. And he did that. He did the test driving and all that malarkey, and that went down well. And he bought the van in the end, sort of thing. And that was all lovely and lovely. So he's in his new van behind me, and we don't know where we're going, and I'm following Apple Maps, you know, to find this place. I found the place, but their website wasn't loading for some reason on my phone, so it was interesting in that respect. So I was like, okay, can we try and find, and like we've gone from normal roads to narrowish roads where they're slightly overgrown and there's like only like a car and a half space to drive down each way, sort of thing. So there's a lot of lay-bys where you have to pull over to let other people back and forth. We turn off, and then suddenly it's just a track, just one single track, which is completely overgrown with foliage. And I'm thinking to myself, because obviously my brother's in his new van following me, because we're, you know, obviously both drove down, and we're now in convoy on the way back. And and I'm thinking to myself, I bet he's thinking, what the hell have I let myself? What have I let myself into? In it, bruv, pick it up, homeboy. You know, like that. It doesn't sound like that. So I'm like, oh no, I've screwed this up. So I finally, you know, Apple Maps finally, because I prefer Apple Maps recently. They've updated it. It's a lot better than it used to be compared to Google Maps, especially on British roads where Apple Maps actually warns you what's coming up instead of like, in 3 seconds, you've now got to do this like Google Maps does. And it's like, oh, what's going on the steering wheel? So, so we finally get there. You've reached your destination. And it's just big security fences everywhere. Saying, you know, do not trespass not allowed, and all that kind of stuff. And my brother's looking at me going, really? Is this can't be it? And I'm like, mate, Apple Maps says it's here. And then I happen to see a little wooden sign right at the top in a Western styley thing saying the name of the place where it is. And I'm like, look up there. And it's like 4 meters tall. So like up. So it's like 18 foot on this little kind of scaffold thing. And there it is, swinging like this Western sign. And I was like, look, we are here. It's somewhere around here. I can smell it. So we're like walking around a little bit down this kind of do not trespass kind of gated kind of big security thing. And they've even got like plastic boards up to about 12, I would say about 9-ish feet tall. So they're completely screened. You can't see in, you know, big white things. You can't see in. And I just found a gap, and I just saw a cowboy. And I was like, "Hey, we're trying to find you. How do we find you?" And he's like, "Oh, the car. You need to go to the next drive down. We're hidden down there." So we get in there, and they're waiting for us at the front gate. And they haven't let us the front gate in because it's still got "Do not trespass" signs everywhere. And we're leaning over this like little on the foliage area, over this 9-ish foot tall barrier thing, and we're just like, look, we're really excited. We've come all this way. We've told the story like you've heard it, just more concise, because why not? And they said, hold on, we're just going to get the owner, find out. And the owner came down, and she basically got, look, okay, we don't normally open it to the public. It's a private area. But you know what? As you've just come down here from, where we are, we've told them where we've come from. You're more than welcome to go and have a look. And this is what we saw. Now, I have gone and found the website because it is loading now. This is what I saw today on the way back. This is not photoshopped. right? This image here is not photoshopped. This is what it looks like. It's not just a facade. They have built the entire town. We walked in, and they've been spending years building all these different shacks, basically. They've got like a chapel, like a traditional chapel with like pews in it. And we went into the saloon, which is like, when we walked in there, it's double story, and like they've got the whole kind of banister there where you walked in, and I looked up and I'm like, I was waiting for the prostitutes to flash their ankles over the banister, fanning themselves. It was like, wow, this is insane, this place. And it's off the beaten track. You really cannot find it. It's the only place in the UK that is actually a proper Western town. And let me go to the gallery. You can check it out yourself. Now, the reason why I'm telling you this story is that I listened. These are real buildings. People live in these buildings. Like they go down there for weekends or weeks and stuff. They've built them. They're all traditional. They've got rules about you have to turn off your mobile phones and stuff. And like there's rules and regulations of what you can and cannot do. There's a general store and stuff. You know what I mean? That's the gallery. That's where we were. That's the saloon. Well, they call it the hotel, but it's a 2-story building that took 7 years to build. What I'm saying is this. I've been thinking about this place since at least 10, 15 years when I found out about it on the DVD bonus thing, right, of Red Dwarf. It randomly came to my attention today because it's like, oh, we're going to Kent, yeah? Oh, that's an old picture. Just down here where you see my mouse waving about, that is where the new chapel is. They only built it in the last 18 months. It was stunning. With a real bell in it. This all works. This whole place works. They've made the wood you see, they make on site using traditional means. There is a blacksmith on site that makes the nails for the place. This is totally traditional. I cannot emphasize enough how almost anal levels of accuracy they do here. It is insanely beautiful place, and the craftsmanship is insane. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this up is this. I listened to my intuition. From nowhere, it just popped into my head. Like, you're going to Kent. You might as well, find out if this place actually exists or if it's no longer there, that kind of thing. And this is privately owned. This is just a private club that have come together and produced it all. This is what intuition can do. They happen to be there this weekend. They happen to have been because of 4th of July, because obviously they're Western. They were celebrating the 4th of July. They had a huge weekend shindig. They camped on site. When we arrived, they had just started packing up. And it was just perfect timing all round for them to go, you know what, look, you can come on board, come inside. We don't normally open it to the public. This is a private, area. You can do this. Come around and have a look. This is the sort of thing that the intuition can do. This is the sort of thing that I very much recommend to retune yourself and retune your intuition. Now, how do you do that? Now, I stupidly, because I was rushing to get on air, I haven't brought my little notebook with me because I was going to share that with me as well, with you as well. But it's one thing to say, oh, I'm going to meditate, or I'm going to let's see if there's any more photos while I'm gassing. Oh, I'm going to meditate, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that. But you need to write it down. I got myself a stupidly expensive notebook. Now, the reason why I got myself a Moleskine one, a stupidly expensive notebook, is because from experience, if it's stupidly expensive, like sunglasses, you protect them as if it's your firstborn child. You protect it. You make sure where it is, because it's 20 quid for one of these books. I ain't losing this for love nor money. I could have bought a reporter pad for 50p, but I've paid the extra. And so you've got that investment to it. You hold it dear. You hold it close. What I've got in there, and I've got two versions. I've got the the notebook one they call it, and I've got the larger one. The reason why I've got those is that one is my what I call exercise book. Yeah, things that I'm going to do like the new moon and stuff like that. I use my exercise book. The other one, a smaller one, is my guidebook. I call it. And in the guidebook, I have set up and this is what I recommend to you guys as well. I've set up some keys. I call them keys, like a map. If you ever see a map, there's always a key or a legend that tells you what the images, the icons represent. Yeah. So this is how you communicate with spirit, with God, with universe, to in-tune yourself and your intuition. You set up rules. Now, it's the long time people have been here for like the last couple of months know that every time I yawn, that's a trigger, that's a thing that I've set up. And I really need to change it. That's what I've set up with. That's like a shorthand. That's a short code between me and spirit, higher being, whatever you want to call it, as to represent I've got it nailed. I don't need to speak anymore about it. I've nailed it. Let's move on. Yeah, I've that kind of thing. I've got it absolutely perfect. Let's move on. Other things that I have in my life are things like here in the UK. As an example, here in the UK, it's very rare to see something from The Wizard of Oz. You know, the God, this sounds pansy, but you get the original Wizard of Oz film with Julie Garland in it, and the Snowman and the Scarecrow, and the Snowman. It was a crossover with Frozen, the one, and it was a reboot. And just wait, it's going to happen. Now I've said it, it's going to happen. But there was a TV commercial based upon that, and they were clever. One of the banks had cleverly planted in one of their representatives in the original Wizard of Oz footage, and it worked beautifully. And then obviously it ran out of time, period-wise, of they're using their license or whatever it may be, and so they stopped running the advert. And so it's clear it was not on mainstream. It wouldn't be on everywhere. It wouldn't be around. And so I said anything to do with the Wizard of Oz, original footage, original music from the original Wizard of Oz with Judy Garland in it, means that I need to do work. I need to put more effort and more work into a situation. If I hear or see something else, then it's less work on a situation. I've done about right. I'm okay. It's things like that where it intertwines. It helps you communicate. There's a two-way communication going on. Yeah, to trigger things, and that's what I'm talking about with retuning your intuition, retuning your communication skills, because it is a different language. And you need to have shorthands built in. If you don't ask and suggest and present shorthands, then you might as well be talking like French and Japanese to spirit, to God, the universe, because there is no communication. There's no what's the stone called? A Rosetta Stone? There's no communication. There's no ground rules to how to communicate. Same with tarot cards. So most tarot card readers, like myself, read them as they're supposed to be. But there's certain cards that I specifically have kind of meant certain things to me as I read them, as I've got more into depth with them. And so spirit speaks that way to me. We've got an understanding that card means this, like the devil card. If the devil card comes up, it's the ego. It's not like drugs and alcohol and, oversexed and all that. It's not the traditional evil stuff. It's the ego, because that's what normally it means. It's only very rarely does it actually mean the alcoholism, the sexism, the blah, 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 that nasty stuff. And so that's one, like I've been saying this frequently for the last... I would say over the last 10 clients who are beautiful, and thank you very much for supporting us, about 5 or 6 of them have all been saying, their readings have been saying you're not listening to your intuition. So I really wanted to emphasize what that means and how you can try, like as a collective yourselves, to retune yourself and to re-listen to your intuition, how it can actually benefit you if you set guidelines, you set rules. And that it's an easier way to communicate, and they're your own personal ones. And I choose ones specifically, especially if I've noticed that the advert, and I don't watch live TV that often, so I don't really watch adverts. I don't see adverts that often. I don't see like that kind of thing that often. So it's rare. So when it comes into my life, it's like, oh, I haven't gone to sort it. I haven't gone to like Spotify and find it. It suddenly appeared in my life somehow. So now I can take it seriously. Now I know that it's a message. Now I know. You see what I'm saying? So I really would recommend this weekend, if anybody feels like they need to retune their intuition or expand it or make it easier for them to communicate more clearly, get a notebook. Preferably the more expensive the better, so you won't lose it. You'll actually treasure it, cherish it, stroke it in an evening. Pervs. But you know, especially if it's a moleskin, it feels so nice. And then write like a notepad version, like the mini one, and write the rules in there. You use it like I do as your guidebook, and know and say and preach almost that this guidebook is the guidebook between us to collectively work together, between spirit, higher self, God, the universe, however you want to call them, and yourself. And that rule book really does help, because then you know for fact, right, that rule has been broken or that rule has been done. So I know this, it means this, because I've written it down and that's what we've agreed beforehand, instead of whimsically thinking, oh, I've seen 11:11 all day long, so it must be true. You know what I mean? It's that kind of thing. Does that make any sense? Chat room's been very quiet. I don't know if they're like sitting there going, will he ever shut up or not? I don't know. But that's something that I was I was kind of like told to talk about today, to really emphasize for people how it's easy to say reconnect to your intuition, but how to do it. This is the method I use. I'm not a golden boy. I'm learning as much as everybody else. I don't want to sound as if I'm better than you in some way, shape, or form, which I'm not. These are the tools that I've done to connect closer, to work with, in tandem with, instead of the like. I'll say this, and then we can move on into other rubbish stuff, right? But and please, if you first come first serve on the questions in the chat, if you so wish. I specifically don't pray. Okay. Now I talk, but I don't pray. The reason why I don't pray, and this is why I went to tarot, is because praying, yes, it plants the seed, but it always felt to me like a one-way conversation. And I know that you can't get anything for free. It can't be just a one-way train of thought. It has to be a partnership. It has to be both. That's why I was pushed. I was pushed. I was inspired. I just had to get tarot cards. I had to get. This is the first deck I got. Yeah, I got. I had to get some tarot cards, because I knew by using the tarot cards and learning the tarot cards, I would then hopefully it would be a two-way conversation. I'll say something, I'll ask a question, and the question will be answered, hopefully. So it'd be a two-way communication. That's the truth of it. That's how I got to this. That's how because I'm very, I approach it in, I don't want to say a scientific way, but I approached it in a kind of an obvious way. Well, if I'm going to talk, then surely there must be a way to communicate easier than a visit from somebody, or you know what I mean. Alan Rickman from Dogma kind of appears like Megatron, and like I am Megatron, blah 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 blah, and then spray him with fire extinguisher. You know what I mean? It's just like, if you haven't seen that movie, just go and see the movie Dogma. Brilliant film. But yes, it's just that sort of situation. So I hope that resonates with you. I really do. You chat, you're being quiet, my darlings. You're not flirting with me. I don't like it when you're not flirting. I don't like it. I like a bit of flirting in my chat room, my dears. But it's just one of those things where I felt very much like it felt like a message that need be said. almost like it kind of draws, and this is another thing that's been coming up a lot, drawing a line in the sand and like going, starting again, starting anew, almost etch a sketch, end of the world and start again. New rules, new regulations, new ways of doing things. Hello, Cryman, how you doing? First of the day, yes. See, this is how it starts. The first one starts, and then the snowball happens of the flirtage outrageously in the chat. Oh, goodness gracious me. So if you're new here, this is Great It's Good Tarot. My name's Lee. I hope you're doing well. That's been me waffling on about crud that I was inspired to tell you about. I hope it did resonate. And so we shall move on to today's plan, my